Welcome to the Children's Book Author Podcast. I'm your host, Eleanor Page. If you write for children, or it's always been your dream to, you're in the right place. As the children's book author, I'm on a quest to discover everything there is about writing, publishing, and marketing children's books, as well as how to supercharge my creativity, skyrocket my productivity, and absolutely everything else there is to know about how to be the best, so you can be too. Join me as I interview fabulous guests and become the children's book author. Welcome back to another episode of the Children's Book Author Podcast with me, your host, Eleanor Page. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Edward Treyer, who is an author and the genius behind the Wishing Shelf Book Awards. Oh, we had the best chat. And I don't know how, because we actually talked for about 30 minutes. We had so many problems connecting, and Edward was beyond the most patient person I have ever interviewed to put up with it, because for some reason all the platforms were failing us, and I think we started the interview about 3 or 4 times, so he had to repeat himself. Poor thing. There were so many challenges, but we got there. And in the end, we ended up on Zoom, and we had under 40 minutes. But we talked about so many things. So let me begin. The first thing we really talked about was the Wishing Shelf Book Awards. And if you go onto the website, which is thewsa.co.uk, that's THE for the WSA, which is Wishing Shelf Awards.co.uk, what really stands out is the first thing it says is adult and children's books, honest and in-depth judging, comprehensive feedback run by authors. And that's, really, we talk a bit about how so many book awards, you don't really know anything about them. And we had a laugh, like, do they even read the book? Huh? It didn't occur to me that they wouldn't, but maybe they don't. Well, the Wishing Shelf Book Awards definitely reads your book. And what's so unique about it is for children's book authors, that's actually judged by kids who are the age that you've written the book for. So that is so unique, and hence why I reached out to Edward to have him on the show. Now, Edward writes under several pen names, but the one that, when you get to the website, he highlights is Billy Bob Buttons, which is, I think, the coolest name I've ever heard. Billy Bob Buttons. I want to get one of those books. I don't even care what's in it. But I guess, from a branding perspective, it tells you straight away, or tells me, that those books are going to be lots and lots of fun. And kids, we talk about what do kids look for in the books they read. And I think sometimes we forget to think really much more deeply about our readers and the age groups that we're writing for. Edward really highlights that. Many people write books to get across a message and probably not enough to entertain. And if you can manage to do the two and the child doesn't even know that there's a message, then you've really hit the nail on the head. So we talk a lot about that. We talk about school visits, and I'm still terrified of doing them properly. You'll probably hear me on lots of interviews asking people about school visits, hoping that one of them finally rubs off on me and I get the confidence to really do it and do it well. I've done it a few times, but not, you listen, for example, to Edward and he's like, yeah, they're easy. I'm like, are they? But perhaps many of these authors are also, fantastic performers. And it's a very different skill, isn't it? Like the skill of sitting somewhere quietly and writing something, and then the skill of presenting that, or presenting anything on writing or drawing or creativity, and also being entertaining with kids who are, I think, would be quite a tough audience. I'm just going to keep asking about that. You'll hear it over and over again. I'm warning you now. And one day, hopefully, I'll do a podcast where I'm like, I've done it. And I hope you've done it too, because that's the point. We're doing this, or I'm doing this, to help you and me become better children's book authors. And, you might not have even published yet, and that's your hurdle. That's okay. You'll get there one day if you just keep looking at that thing and thinking, I will jump it. I will. And I will jump the school visits hurdle one day. I will. I am. That's what I got to say. I am jumping the children's book visit hurdle. But that's where it's at. We've all got limitations, and we've all got aspirations, and we're also putting together a kind of individual formula, and we have to decide which bits we want to do. So, you'll hear, for example, Edward says, oh, you wouldn't want to do online. Well, that's where I've been putting my efforts really for the last, few years. And it is paying off, but it's really about where do you want to put them next? What eggs do you want to have in your basket? What tools in your little tool? Well, there's a word for that, but you get what I'm talking about. And that's the decisions we all have to make. And it starts by being honest about what you're scared of and what you're going to do about it, because you can't just keep being scared. Eventually, I have to make a plan to get out there and just be willing to go out there and fail. And that's the bit, isn't it? We all have to be willing to go out there and fail. And I talk sometimes to authors who have written something and won't share it. And it's been there for like 6 years, perfecting it, because they're scared that when those readers read it, they'll hate it. But it's probably faster progress to be hated and to then move past that than it is to always be liked. I did go to a seminar one time, complete change of topic, where the organisers, who I can't remember, it was some sort of, businessy type get out there course. And they said, please put your hand up if you gave a talk in a room full of thousands of people. Please put your hand up. Do you want them all to like you? Do you want some of them to like you, some of them to hate you, and some of them to love you? Which of the two would you pick? And do you know, most of the room put their hand up for the first option. People would rather be liked by everyone than loved by some, but then they have to be hated by others. And I often think of that because I know, and I'm not making it up, I absolutely know that this oftentimes holds me back. And I wonder if it holds you back, or maybe it doesn't. And then, hooray, that's not your thing. Fabulous. But we talk about that, and Edward is, fantastic. He's so open and shares everything. I think you're really going to love today's interview. It's a nice bit of a shorty one too, so no excuses. You can squeeze it in while you do your walk or while you're washing dishes. I hope you enjoy the interview, and I will see you.
Recording in progress.
Cut it.
Could be that I'm recording, but I'm not sure.
At least someone's recording.
Yeah. Someone's
and
recording.
If no one's recording, then
Yeah.
Oh dear. All right.
Definitely
Let's
recording.
pray. Something is recording. All right. Take 3. Here we go. We got it very smoothly done now, so
should
got
be.
this.
Yeah.
All right. It gives me great pleasure to welcome onto the show today Edward Trayer, who is an award-winning and best-selling author of 19 children's, young adult and adult books. He writes under 2 pen names, Billy Bob Buttons, love that name, super creative, and Hickory Crowl, equally as creative. And he's also the founder of the Wishing Shelf Independent Book Awards, which is where I found him. Welcome to the show, Edward.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your writing journey and how you ended up becoming a children's book author. Was it always that way? Did you start out as one?
No, I started out as a teacher. I was an English teacher, a secondary school, high school English teacher in England. And then I did a lot of traveling to Japan and America and so on. And I was teaching as I went and sort of paid my way, if you like. And then I wrote a book called The Wizard's Bookshop, which was published in America in about 2001. And that sold pretty good. So I wrote 5 in the set, and then I kept on going. I stopped teaching, and I started visiting schools as an author instead of as a teacher. And I designed all these literacy workshops for them on planning and character development and so on. And I started doing book signings at the end of the day for the parents, and it got really, really successful. And then a few years ago, I decided to enter a book award, and I was quite disappointed. I actually did quite well, but they just seemed to want to sell me sort of stickers. So I realized that a lot of it was a bit dodgy. So I decided to set up my own book awards, which I did. And I found lots of children in the schools help me to judge the children's books. And I had lots of friends who were big readers. So I set up these 2 reading groups, one in London where I worked and one in Stockholm where I lived in Sweden, about 60 adults. And they judged the sort of fiction, non-fiction adult books. And then it grew, really. It grew from, I think the first year, we had 40 entrants. So that year, basically everyone everyone got through to the finals. And now, I think last year, I think we had close to 700 entrants in the awards. So it gets a little crazy. But that was a crazy year because that was sort of the COVID year, and everyone was bored to death. So they decided to enter a book award. So hopefully we're going to bring the numbers down a little bit this year. Fingers crossed.
I had no, do you know, I've never ever asked how many people enter book awards. I always wonder, particularly if I kind of get close to, I've never gotten first place, but close to the top. I'm like, is that because there were only, 5 entries and I won number 5?
A lot of book awards will hide that information. They don't want you to know. But what we do is we tell the authors in the newsletters and on the Facebook page, and you'll see this later on, not only how many have entered in total, but we'll tell you how many entered in each group, each category. So we don't have loads and loads of categories because, a lot of awards with loads and loads of categories, I always find a bit dodgy. But we always tell the authors how many entered in each category and how many finalists in each category. So we try and keep them up to date with everything that's going on. So we're very, very open. We'll tell you anything, basically. It's no problem.
That's amazing to have that sort of honesty and integrity straight off. And did you design the awards because, as you said, off the things that you hated? So, when you entered, you thought, I'm not going to do it that way.
Well, the problem with a lot of book awards is who runs them. So if they're run by some company that, are in it for the money, because there's a lot of money to be made. Now, we run not for profit, so we make no profit. Every penny goes back into the awards, and anything we make over goes to Blind Children UK, which is a charity we support. So we don't make money, but a lot of them, most of them, are there to make money. So they're going to do everything they can to do as cheaply as possible, and to get as much money to milk the author as much as possible. And that's what you've got to watch out for. So there's ALI, the Alliance of Independent Authors. Now we're recommended by them, and if you are thinking of entering an award, check out their website, look at the awards they recommend. There's a few, but they'll also give nice big red warnings for the ones that are a bit dodgy. And a lot of them, they're just trying to make money, and they won't really tell you who the judges are or how many are entered, because they don't want you to do the maths and work out how much money they're getting in. So you've got to be very, very careful and do your research before you enter any book award or do anything in self-publishing, actually, because I think sometimes it's seen as a big cash cow by a lot of people. So you've got to do check everything out before you get involved with an editor or a publisher or anyone, check them out fully first.
That's really, really sound advice. And I'd never thought to check book awards on the Alliance of Independent Authors. Yeah, I know they look at a lot of other things, but I had no idea. And I do get emails from like strange awards saying, you know, enter our awards.
Yeah,
and I think, yeah. So how do you manage all the people that are judging? Like, is that a hard process? Like, do they change constantly? What's that like on your end?
Yeah, it's a pretty big job. So I have 3 members of staff, if you like, but they're sort of, I think members of staff sounds a bit, bigger than it is. They're part-time and we do pay them a little money, but they do it for fun as well. And they help me to organize the reading groups and to help, all the logistics of running the award. It's huge. I mean, it's just organizing the feedback, because most book awards, they won't give you feedback, because if they give you feedback, you'll know they haven't read the book. So because they won't know what to write. So we give a lot of feedback, a lot of statistical feedback, paragraphs from the readers about what they thought about the book, and catchy quotes and all sorts. But that part of the award is huge. To get out 600 feedbacks from a minimum of 15 readers for each book it takes forever. It takes forever, but we get it done every year, just about.
That is actually mind-blowing that you give feedback like that. You're right. I've never gotten feedback, and I've often thought they do read the book, don't they?
Well, I wouldn't guarantee it.
Yeah. Do you know, that never occurred to me that they didn't read the book? No. My goodness. So I wonder, what are they judging it on then? Just like the front cover or something? Or Right. Wow. So that's just massive. With the children's book reviewers, it's actually children who are reviewing sometimes, right? Or actually giving.
Totally.
Yeah.
So our award is based around it being judged by the intended reader of the book. So I personally believe, you can get someone who's 60 years old, knows everything about publishing, but why are they judging a book for 7-year-olds? Because it's not for them, it's for the 7-year-old. So, and they'll look at things that 7-year-olds don't care about. And it's what the 7-year-old cares about that matters. So what we do is, so if you enter, for example, category 2, which is for 6 to 8-year-olds, then the 15 readers that read it will all be 6 to 8-year-olds, with some parents and some teachers helping them, of course, and they help them to write the comments, because it's quite difficult at that age. But you'll be getting feedback from that readership, and that's why our award is that little bit special, I think.
That's really special. I don't know of another awards
we're the only one, I think,
does that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's truly incredible. Tell me, given that you've been running this for so many years, and of course you write your own books, what is it that children really look for in a book? What's kind of the winning ingredient, in your opinion?
Well, the cover is surprisingly important for young kids. They need to be pulled in by the cover, and the title is very important. It needs to be an exciting title, pulling them into the story. A little crazy, the title. I wrote a book called The Boy Who Piddled in His Granddad's Slippers, about a boy with superhuman weeing power. And it's an okay book. It's a fun book. But I wrote a much better picture book called Wide Awake. But all the kids want to read The Boy Who Piddled in His Granddad's Slippers, because that's got the catchy title. So title is very, very important. Comedy is very important. Make the child laugh as they read the book. Not all the time if you're writing, end of world dystopian type stuff, but a little humor, it greases the wheels, it keeps them turning the page. So that can be very important as well. And you just got to surprise them. One of the biggest problems we have with picture books is that authors, they try too hard to put over a message. They try to preach too much. And that is a huge problem with the picture books that we get entered. So you get someone coming in and they think, oh, I want to write a book that tells children it's important not to bully, but they forget about the characterization, they forget about the plot, they forget about the humor. It's just basically tell, don't bully. and that happens a huge amount of times. And often you have books that are beautifully illustrated, but the story is quite poor. And that's another problem that kids don't like. They don't want to be told, tell. They want to just try and work it out for themselves, you know.
Yeah, such valid advice. So did you know to do that with your books like from early on because you taught English at school and you sort of saw this in the kids?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't have a lot of deep messages in my book. You know, I mean, the boy who piddled in his granddad's slippers is teaching kids. You know, you can wee a long way if you really work hard. You know, that's about the level of my deep, meaningful messages. But you know, we for some reason, particularly older picture book writers, retired people, they really want to pass on their knowledge and their experience, but often they don't know how to do it in a way that the child will get. So often I find myself, I also do some editing, not much because it drives me crazy, but I will occasionally do some rewriting of a picture book for an author. And often I just try and make it funny and take out all the sermonizing and try and, you know, the message is there. It's a bit like the Gruffalo. I always say this to authors with the Gruffalo. The Gruffalo message is, you know, brains is greater than brawn. Yeah, the mouse is cleverer than the Gruffalo, so he wins, even though the Gruffalo is bigger. But the author never says that. She never sums it up at the end with a paragraph. She just ends it with, "There's a nut in the forest, and the nut tasted good," or whatever. But any child will know that's the message. But she doesn't actually tell them, and that's the clever bit. And most picture book authors, particularly if it's the first one, you know, they haven't been a child for a long, long time. They don't know how to do that, and that's one of the problems we have with the picture books, and that's why often the picture books don't do well in the awards, and some do, of course.
So the children are, from what I'm hearing, in some ways, I'm probably going to say this totally wrong, but I'm just going to say it the way it comes to me. They're more intelligent than we give them credit for.
Oh yeah,
like we don't have to spell it out for them.
My readers, my young readers, they can be quite evil. I mean, they kids. They do say, what's that expression? You know, stupid people and children tell the truth. Yeah, something like that. And the kids, the feedback they write for the awards is always honest. You know, they don't like it. They don't like it. They just say, "I don't like it." You know, it's boring. You know, this is boring. This piece of writing, they don't like it. And I don't change. We don't change the feedback. We write it as they say it, because if we started changing it, where do you stop? You know, what will offend and what won't offend? Every author's different, and I would say that 99% of the authors are very happy to get honest feedback from us, from the kids, from the adults who read it. A few percent, 1% every year get really angry with us. They get really upset. And, you know, they say it's terrible that we, but, you know, that's the world, you know, there's always going to be someone. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're honest. The readers say what they think. You know, if you don't like it, don't enter my book, don't enter our book award and ask for honest feedback. Enter the 100 other book awards that won't even read it, and they'll just say it's great and sell you winner stickers, you know. So, you know, it's the way it is. We're honest, so we tell the truth. But some don't like it. But most are very happy to get real feedback. Most are very good.
I think probably 1% negative feedback, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah,
so...
yeah. They get quite nasty though. But yeah, generally we just call it a day. I tend not to get into an argument with them. You can usually tell after one or two emails that they're a little bit, you know, special. So we just call it a day and let them get on with it, you know.
Well, it's funny actually, because I just got my my reviews back for two of my books from your reviewers, and yeah. I thought it was fantastic, because there was this line, something like, this book reminded me of books by Enid Blyton and Roald Dahl. I thought, oh my God, that is such a lovely compliment. And then the review went on to say, and this book was not quite as imaginative as Roald Dahl, but it was close. And I thought, well, I love that honesty.
You know, if you can
like,
get
what
close,
a brilliant line.
If you can get close to Roald Dahl, you're doing well. So I wouldn't worry. You know.
It was just, I thought it was actually, you know, gold. to actually receive real feedback from a real child, because you don't get that. You don't even
No,
get that
you
on
can't get it.
Amazon
No.
reviews. Amazon reviews, the parents are saying, my kid liked the
Yeah.
book, my kid didn't like the book,
Yeah.
you know, and there's
Amazon
still that,
reviews are
that
very hit
filter.
and miss. They're very hit and miss.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on there half the time and who's writing them and why they're writing it and what their agenda is and so on. And, you know, where they're best mates with the author's girlfriend or whatever. So if I'm buying, you know, if I'm buying a screwdriver from Amazon, you know, there's 5,000 5 stars and 3,000 1 stars. You know, it's meaningless after a bit. So there you go.
So how do we overcome, because, you know, a lot of people say to me, oh, yes, but you've got to kind of write the book for the librarian and the parent, not, you know, like, yes, the child's reading it, but they're the ones buying it. And, you know, there's kind of like these three audiences in children's books.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the child is the real audience. Do we just forget about the gatekeepers and really write with that child in our mind? Is that right?
No, you can't do it, because as you just said, the parent's the one with the credit card, so they're the ones buying the book. So you have to, you know, when you write, I often say to children in my workshops, which is the most difficult blurb to write for on the back of a book? Is it for a children's book or an adult book? And the answer is a children's book, because a blurb for a children's book has to entice the child and the parent. So it's actually got two audiences, but you have to keep in mind the parents and the school. So I always say to adults who, you know, they insist on putting swear words in a children's book, and I say, well, you know, if you have to do it, do it. But, you know, the parents are the ones who are buying the book. If they see that word, they're not going to buy any more books, and word gets around. And, you know, so just change it for something. It doesn't matter. The kid doesn't care. They want a good story, you know. So I think you do have to still think about the parent, the schools, the librarians, and what they're buying, because you've got to play the game. You've got to jump through the hoops a little bit. But I still think the focus should be on the reader. But just keep in mind who's buying the book at the same time, which is difficult, I know, but there you go.
Yeah, but really good advice. Thank you. So in terms of doing school visits, I've got to be honest, I'm actually terrified of doing school visits. I have done a few, but like, I love children, but you're right, like, it's really confronting, like having them kind of, you know, like judge you and your work on the spot. So talk to me about that.
Well, the thing with doing visits to schools is they buy your book if they like you. Right. So if I go up and do a literacy workshop, and I try and be really funny, we have a great laugh, they enjoy it, you know, they really love the workshop. When they go out of school, they're going to grab hold of mum or dad or grandma, whoever it is, carer, and they're going to drag them over to buy a book or the book signing. But if I'm a bit boring and dry and stale, and, you know, it doesn't matter how good the book is, the kid isn't going to want to buy the book. So the problem, or the good thing about literacy workshops, is that you have to give it all. You have to, they're buying you, basically, and that's the way it is. And so I try and be quite outgoing and funny and make it a good laugh, and I, you know, the thing is, I've done visited over 3,000 schools. So, and I'm a teacher, so I've done workshops for, you know, over 1,000 children at a time. And to be honest, it doesn't faze me in the slightest. It never even worries me. I don't even think about it. I just go and do it. So I don't get nervous, which is great. And I know a lot of people do. And you've just got to fight it and battle it and have great workshops and practice them, because I think you'll get confidence in having good workshops that you practice. And the good thing is, the more you do it, the more confident you'll get. So you just got to go out there and do it. The only way, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just got to do it. So you prepare it before, like you have a plan of attack in terms of what you're presenting, yeah?
Yeah. So I designed 7 or 8 different workshops on different subjects. And I've given those workshops hundreds of times. So I will change them slightly depending on the school and the standard of the child and what level they're at. But I can almost do them without thinking. So you have that confidence, because you know the workshop so well. So that helps a lot too.
And what do schools and teachers want from a workshop like that? Like, do they want like you to teach kids how to write their own stories? Do they want you to just present about yourself? Is it a combination of that?
They want a mixture of being entertained and educated. So if you can give a workshop to 300 10-year-olds and keep them sat on the floor and interested for 1 hour, you can't do that by just educating, because they will die. They'll be bored to death after 10 minutes. You've got to balance it. So you've got to make a lot of fun and throw the education without them even knowing it. You know, almost slip it in under the radar so they don't even realize they're being educated. And that's the trick, really. And it's a difficult trick, but it's just experience. You just get it after a bit. You just do.
Yeah, so you would probably like do one and see what jokes completely flop.
Yeah, some of my jokes are terrible. So they go. I get rid of that joke. And then this one joke's brilliant, and then I use that for like 10 workshops. And so yeah, you just, you know what works and what doesn't work, and if you have a tough group, okay, that bit of the workshop is pretty tough. They're not going to deal with that. So I'm going to skip that bit, and we're going to go to question and answer and reading, because that's a lot easier for them. So you change it as you go. You just do it as you go. You just get the hang of it after a bit.
Yeah, so it sounds like experience comes that sort of intuitive sense of, oh, this audience is not going to like this bit. Yeah, so that's really, really interesting. I have, like I said, done a few, and they were for like early high school, and I found them quite good audiences, but I was worried about younger ones, because I honestly, my greatest fear is that they'd be bored, that they're like, and it's like, oh my God, and the teacher hates me. I've got this fear of teachers because I'm not one. I know you used to be one, but I'm thinking the teacher's going to hate me.
I do sometimes meet very strange teachers, I have to say.
Do you?
Again, it's a bit like the book awards. 99% are lovely. That 1% is completely off the wall. It's just the way of the world. It doesn't matter what you do. If you change tires on cars for a living, 99% of your customers will be fine, and one will be completely bonkers. It's just always that way.
So it just you have to be willing to fail in order to finally find how it works for you in a children's author visit. And do you think doing author visits was crucial for building your success, or do you think you could have done it without it? How important are they in the scheme of things?
Well, for me, they were the most important thing by far. I mean, I sell tens of thousands of books to schools and parents, and it's all through the workshops and the book signings, because I met with over 800,000 children. So it's everything, and anything is better than trying to market on the internet, which is, you can't see the woods for the trees with the amount of authors pushing books or whatever, or pushing anything. So I'm a big believer in meeting with your audience and directly pushing the books to them. I find it a lot better. But the difference is, with children's books you have a market because you have the schools. But with adult books, it's a little more difficult to find the venue to actually showcase yourself. Is more difficult to find.
Do you think, in your experience, was it difficult getting your foot in the door initially, being a self-published author? Did schools care about that, or were they just more about what you were delivering?
I would say that 95% of the time, most schools don't really know the difference between self-publishing and published. I think that authors very easily forget that they know because they're authors, and they just think everyone else knows. But you go up to the average Joe in the street and you say, what's self-publishing? Most of them wouldn't have a clue. So as long as it's a well-written book and it looks the part, and it's a fun story the kids enjoy, it's not full of spelling errors, and it's a great read for the kid, then the kid doesn't care. There's no interest whatsoever. There's terribly written traditional published books, and there's terribly written self-published. But they just want a good read, and they really have no interest at all in who publishes it. Now, authors and publishers, they tend to worry about this a lot for some reason, but the readership really has no interest. They just want a good read. They don't care who published it. They don't care. They just want a good read. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. When you put it like that, it kind of just seems.
Yeah, they have no idea what self-publishing is. They've never heard of, what Create Space as it used to be called, or Kindle or Select or whatever. They've never heard of any of this stuff. If when you enter a book awards, again, 99.9% of people have never heard of the Wishing Shelf Book Awards, and they haven't heard of the Forward Book Awards, the Writer's Digest Book Awards, or any of the millions. They haven't heard of any of them. They have no interest. Why would they? But if you can put award-winning author on your novel, then that might help them to persuade them to buy the book, to give you a chance as an author, and that's what it's there for. So, I mean, many years ago, I won the People's Book Prize, which is quite a big award in the UK, for I Think I Murdered Miss, which is a middle grade novel. And I've never met anyone that's not an author who's ever heard of that book award, the People's Book Award, the UK People's Book Award. But it's quite a big one, but no one's heard of it. But when I put that in my blurb that goes out to the schools saying I'm a winner of the UK People's Book Prize, then I get a lot more schools booking me in to do visits. So it's like a tool in a toolbox. You use it to get what you want, but don't ever think that someone's going to go, oh, this book award, oh, that's not as good as this book award, or that. They have no clue. It's just like they don't know. 99% of people don't know which tire is the best tire for your car. Exactly the same thing, really. But you just got to. I always say to authors who enter my book awards, you've got to have like a marketing plan. Why are you entering it? What's the point? Are you entering it because you want to tell people you won a book award at dinner parties? Yeah. If that's what you want, that's fantastic. No, it's brilliant. Go for it. If that's your reason, then that's fine. If your reason is because you want to put, award-winning author on your book, then again, that's a good plan. But you need to have a plan. That's the important thing.
Yeah, really solid advice. To be honest, I won a few awards and I haven't put it anywhere. I've thought, I don't want to be like a bragging author because I won an award. Right.
You have to brag. You have to brag. You have to sell yourself. You've got to sell yourself, and you've got to put it everywhere. Just because why not? Everyone's you got to sell yourself. Battle on.
And as you say, more schools booked you when you had that in there. That's really interesting.
More. And not one of those teachers ever heard of the UK People's Book Prize, but they all book me now because I won it. So for they know, it could be run by a short man in a shed. They have no idea. So, but it's actually a really good award, but they don't know that. But there you go.
No, that's excellent. So when you write, do you love middle grade especially? Is that?
I tend to write.
I have a sense. Maybe you do.
Yeah, I tend to write mostly for middle grade, but you've got to remember those 8 to 11-year-olds, they're primary school, and primary school is the best schools to visit as an author because they get picked up by parents. So if they're being picked up by parents, then the parents can come and buy a book. But high school kids, they're not picked up by parents, so you can't do a book signing. So everything's for a reason. So I do middle grade because that's my market where I can sell to within the school. Yeah.
And they're my favorite age group in general, like in the whole, psychology of life, all the different psychological levels of being. I think like 8 to 11, 12-year-olds are like this sort of little mystical pocket where they're kind of like innocent and fun, and they love adventure. Yeah, and they love reading.
You get to teenagers, they can be a bit difficult. I have teenage daughters. nightmare, you know. I mean, but when they were 10, they read every day. But now, you know, it's very hard to get them to read. So, and I'm an author and a teacher, and I can't get my teenagers to read. So you know, that age group is lovely. They're great fun to work with, and they love reading. And the parents pick up. So it's all, you know, it's not broken. Why fix it? Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. What do readers at that age group look for? Still humor? They like humor still at that age?
Good adventure, excitement, fun characters to fall in love with, you know, exciting covers, what you would expect, really. They don't like to be sort of told everything, you know, show don't tell. They love the showing is a lot better, and they don't like to be preached to. You know, the preaching doesn't work. You know, if you want to put a message across in your book, then make it very subliminal, make it, you know, you can hardly find it. But any book that's entered the book award where it really is a message book, you know, an author trying to put across a message, generally speaking, the teenagers, they won't like it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of the time because we've got, for some reason, a time limit today on our recording.
Yes, we're on Zoom. So, yes, we are limited.
We're on Zoom and an unpaid account. Naughty. So I've only got 40 minutes, but I've loved every single thing you've said. What I'd love to finish on is the Wishing Shelf Independent Book Awards. Where are they at this year? Like, when is like the cutoffs? When is the next round of judging happening?
We work yearly. So if you want to enter the 2022 Book Awards, you can enter any time in 2022. So the cutoff is 31st December 2022. And then we announce the finalists in March, and then the winners 1 month later in April. So basically you enter in the year you want to enter, 2022, and then sort of a couple of months after that, everything, you start getting the finalists, the winners, all the feedback's going out, certificates, medals, and so on and so on. So it all kicks off a couple of months after the end of that calendar year. So if you want to enter the 2022 Book Awards, now's the time to do it.
Well, that's another very logical thing about your awards. You know, the greatest frustration is when I go to enter an award and they end it in April, and I'm like,
No, it's very simple. We keep it simple. Simple's good.
And so between the cutoff and then like April, is everybody reading and reviewing like?
Yeah, they're reading, reviewing all year, but it gets really intense those 3 months. But they read and review all year because we guarantee 15 readers will read each book. So that's a lot of readers. So that's why we work with PDFs and not actual physical books, because otherwise we'd be posting books all over the world. And it works pretty well that way. We found it works well with the PDF. They're reading all year and right into March.
Wow, that's brilliant. Well, authors, you're hearing this on this podcast, jump on and enter those awards, although we will give Edward a lot more work if we all do that. Yeah, so sorry about that, Edward. But that's all good. Thank you so much for being on the show. I know we've had a limited time, but I've so enjoyed learning from you, and I definitely have learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Did you find that interview valuable? Great! Now be an awesome human and go and leave a review, because it helps the podcast out so much. Want to read the show notes? Check out thechildren'sbookauthorpodcast.com. Want to find out more about me, Eleanor Page? Find me at eleanorpage.com or come and say hello on social at Eleanor Page Books. Until next time, keep writing and keep learning.